This was unexpected. The Boston Celtics just unfortunately suffered a blowout loss to the Milwaukee Bucks, 135-102. And after coming back on a comeback victory versus the Minnesota Timberwolves in overtime, the Boston Celtics could not get the job done tonight in Milwaukee. We'll be here to break down the post-game analysis and reactions looking at the box score and breaking down this terrible loss from the Boston Celtics. Welcome back to Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Veliz, but before we get into this unfortunate loss of a breakdown, we'd like to say that roughly right around 80% of our viewers are not subscribed, and we'd greatly appreciate it if you guys hit that big old red subscribe button and join the Celtics Digest family. We're less than 50 subscribers to our 3,000 goal, so if you guys want to make sure you stay up to date on daily Boston Celtics coverage, make sure to hit that subscribe button, as you definitely won't regret it. But let's get to the news at hand today as we break down the Celtics losing in devastating fashion to the Milwaukee Bucks. Like I mentioned in the intro, they lost 135-102 in Milwaukee. And I'd like to give a little bit of analysis of the game before we look at the stats from the team and from the individual players. But before we get into that, I would want to know your guys' thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. So let me know what you guys thought on this game as well. Personally, the game started off terribly for the Boston Celtics. Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard went on an insane run in the first quarter, starting off 13-2 versus the Boston Celtics in the first 2 minutes, which led the Boston Celtics trailing by a bunch. Then the Boston Celtics kind of locked in a little bit in the first quarter. It was a little bit of a bounce back in the middle of it. The Celtics cut a little bit of a lead, had a nice little run of their own. But then the Bucks went on an insane lead by Bobby Portis. Bobby Portis, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Damian Lillard already had all double-digit points going into the first quarter, and the Celtics were down 18. Then when we get into the second quarter, the Celtics led up a 25-0 run to the Milwaukee Bucks, in which the Milwaukee Bucks were able to build a gigantic lead and a huge momentum swing at home versus this Boston Celtics team. The threes could not fall, the twos could not fall. They were taking some weird, not looking great shots, and unfortunately for this team, it just could not get the job done. Going into second half, they did not go with any of the starters. They benched all of them, and they just let the bench guys play out. And some guys had some big games for the Boston Celtics. Payton Pritchard had a little bit of a nice showing for the Boston Celtics late in the game. Sam Hauser hit some big threes. But unfortunately, the game was already over at the point that Celtics were down 40 points. They only scored 37 in the first half combined and let up almost 80 to the Milwaukee Bucks, which is just terrible to see. And unfortunately, they do this after a great comeback win versus the Minnesota Timberwolves in an OT thriller in a back-to-back game with no Al Horford to guard Giannis Antetokounmpo. Fortunately, though, it is nothing to freak out about as a Celtics fan. This is just another loss for the Celtics season, and it's an unfortunate blowout loss, but it's nothing to freak out about. Yes, they did not play the greatest offensively tonight, but they are coming off a back-to-back versus one of the best defensive teams in Minnesota, and they're playing one of the toughest offensive teams in Milwaukee once they get it clicking, and they were just making all their shots and were not missing. But let's look at the stats for the game. As you guys can see, Celtics shot a whopping 38% from the field compared to the Milwaukee Bucks, 57% basically. And the Celtics shot a whopping 26% from three compared to the Milwaukee Bucks, 43%. So there and there, it's putting it on the stats right there. The Milwaukee Bucks were just hitting everything. All their guys were not missing, making all their threes, while the Celtics could not make a shot. They had a cold night shooting tonight. Boston Celtics made more free throws than the Milwaukee Bucks, having a better percentage, 83% to 81%, but it was a little bit close there. Like we said, the Milwaukee Bucks dominated this game with a not that great Boston Celtics offense, and they dominated in basically every category. Rebounds, 53-32, dominating with 5 more offensive rebounds and 16 more defensive rebounds, 14 more total assists. They tied in blocks. And the Celtics had 1 more steal, and the Milwaukee Bucks had 2 more turnovers. But the Bucks had 8 more points in the paint and had more fouls. If we want to look at the individual stats from the Boston Celtics, like I mentioned, the starting 5 for the Celtics only played the first half, and as you guys can see, their minutes reflect that. Jayson Tatum had a not that great performance, 2 for 6 from the field, 3 for 4 from the 3. 7 points. Porzingis, 6 points, 3 for 9 from the field with 4 assists and 3 rebounds. Jrue Holiday, 2 for 9 from the field. Played some solid defense on Giannis Antetokounmpo a little bit in the beginning, but just wasn't getting everything his way. Derrick White, not the greatest shooting night, 1 for 4. And Jaylen Brown had a little bit of a rhythm for the Boston Celtics, a little bit, but again, nothing significant to keep him in the game and wanting him and keeping the Celtics actually alive, just hitting some shots for the Celtics, finishing with 10 points in the starting lineup. Mainly the bench were the main contributors because they were the only ones that got action in the second half and were actually asked to contribute for this team. We can look at Sam Hauser. He had a decent outing in his hometown of Milwaukee, going back there. 4 for 8 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, 3 for 3 from free throw, with 4 total rebounds, 1 total steal, and 15 total points. Shea Brissett brought some nice energy for the Boston Celtics and was looking like a little bit of a nice, guy who can kind of stop Giannis a little bit, finishing 4 for 8 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3, 5 for 6 from free throw. He's got to work on that 3 a little bit. Sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't. 2 defensive rebounds, 1 assist, and 13 points. Luke Kornet, basically a bunch of cardio, 1 assist tonight, 1 foul. Not the greatest outing from him. Namus Keita, 2 for 4 from the field, 4 total rebounds, 1 block, and 2 turnovers with 4 total points. Not the greatest night for him. But the man that I wanted to mention was Payton Pritchard. He had, basically the keys to the offense tonight. Once the Boston Celtics sat all their starters, him and Sam Hauser with no Al Horford are the key guys to go off on the bench. So he delivered for the Celtics tonight a little bit, shooting roughly around 50%, 6 for 13 from the field, not that great, 2 for 8 from 3-point range, 7 for 7 from free throw, finishing with 4 total rebounds, 4 total assists, 1 block, 1 turnover, and 21 points. Steve Mihailuk went 3 for 9, 2 for 3 from 3, and some little bit of the end game minutes in the second half with 9 total points. And Banton 1 for 5 from the field. Nothing to expect great from Banton on the offensive side usually, but some solid defense, 2 steals, 3 assists, getting himself involved. And Lamar Stevens 1 for 6 from the field with 4 total rebounds. He doesn't involve himself a lot in the offense either. Honestly, like I mentioned, though, if you want to look at the Milwaukee Bucks, they just had dominant performances. Giannis Antetokounmpo went off, 12 rebounds, 24 points. Brook Lopez had a solid outing. Damian Lillard had a good first half. Malik Beasley. And Bobby Portis just did Bobby Portis things. 11 for 8 from the field, 5 for 6 from 3, 12 total rebounds. He was their big X factor from the Milwaukee Bucks tonight. Unfortunately for the Boston Celtics, they just did not have it offensively, and the Milwaukee Bucks were just hitting everything and completely in control and dominance in front of this whole entire matchup. Luckily for the Boston Celtics, it was a road game for them, so they do not lose that home win streak, and they get to keep that alive. And luckily for the Boston Celtics, it is a game in January. It's nothing to freak out about. There's no big deal. The Bucks definitely did not surpass the Boston Celtics as the number 1 seed. They're not the most dominant. It was just a great win for them. They had a lot of rest. They had been off since Monday, and the Boston Celtics just came off a back-to-back overtime thriller versus a top team in the West in the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are also a great defensive team, with the Milwaukee Bucks being a great offensive team. So it's a little bit of differences for the team style. Play style, they had to fly out from Boston to Minnesota. I'm not trying to give them that many excuses, but I don't want to overreact and freak out on this loss and get really mad at our Celtics here tonight. They just had a bad shooting night. That happens sometimes. It's not going to go great for every team. Unfortunately, it happened versus a very good team, and they had a good shooting night, so it made it look a little bit worse. But for the Boston Celtics, everything will be okay. But thank you guys for tuning into this episode. I want to know your guys' thoughts and opinions. Let me know what you guys think of this game. The Celtics will gear up to take on the Houston Rockets and hopefully getting a bounce-back win on Saturday night. They will desperately need that as they go back home to keep that win streak alive and bring it to 19-0. But thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of Celtics Digest. If you guys are still at this point in the video and not subscribed, I don't know what you guys are doing. You guys clearly enjoy that content, and we're trying to get to that 3K subscriber goal, so help us out. But thank you guys so much for tuning in this episode. I'm Bruce Veliz, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.